Are you struggling to come up with original content week in and week out? Start a podcast. Interview your ideal clients, let them talk about what they care about most, and never run out of content ideas again. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. I'm your host for today's episode, Logan Lyles, Director of Partnerships here at Sweetfish Media. I am joined today by Samantha Stone, founder and CMO at the Marketing Advisory Network. She is also the author of Unleash Possible and happens to be a host of the podcast by the very same name. She is a repeat guest. If you haven't heard from Samantha before, definitely check out previous episodes with her. I think she has been interviewed on this show more than anyone else. So very excited to get the chance to interview you yet again here on B2B Growth. Samantha, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. And I think I have the varsity jacket thanks to your team to prove the repeat visits. So I always love talking about marketing and what's happening. And I'm really glad I could be here again today to do that.
Awesome. Well, Samantha, for folks who aren't as familiar with you as we are here on the team, I would love for you to open it up with a little bit of introduction of yourself and the Marketing Advisory Network before we jump into today's topic on marketing and artificial intelligence.
My pleasure. I have been very lucky in the past 6.5 years since I founded the Marketing Advisory Network. I've had the pleasure of working with a really big variety of customers who have complex selling processes, many of which are in the technology space, but not exclusively. I also work with some service organizations and some others as well here and there. The thing that they have in common is that they're trying to take a complex product or service and bring it to market in a way that attracts the right audience, that helps them understand how to make their buying decisions faster. So that has been at the Marketing Advisory Network. But prior to that, I'd spent 15 years working with technology companies, some very large ones whose names you would recognize, and some small startups bringing products to market for the first time. So I love a challenge. I love taking things that are difficult to explain and helping find ways to tell stories about it that really compel people to look at them, evaluate them, and hopefully purchase them.
Yeah. So with that being said, you bring a lot of experience in the marketing realm to a topic that's really top of mind for a lot of folks in marketing as well as sales these days. I think a lot of B2B salespeople and marketers are concerned with, where is AI going? Is it going to replace some of my role or all of my role in some cases? Others are very excited about the opportunities. So let's open it up, Samantha, and talk a little bit about the line between humans and machines are blurring. And I think that'll be a nice entry point to talk about some of the applications and some of the things that we see coming down the line where marketers can actually work with AI.
Absolutely. And let me first just say that I really hope that artificial intelligence lives up to its potential and takes away some of the things that we do day to day, because machines are much better at it. And the routinized, tedious things that we spend a lot of time on can really be freed up to do more creative endeavors that make a lasting impact. Right? So for me, there is this incredible opportunity that we are just starting to understand, which is really about the intersection of machines and humans. We have been using machines to do things in marketing for decades, right? We've been doing marketing automation. We've been doing email. We've been doing lead scoring. All of these things take machine intelligence. But there's a big shift that the introduction of real artificial intelligence provides us that we couldn't get with simple machines before. And the difference is we've traditionally done things that are rules based, where we tell the system what to do and the system goes out and does that. And that largely mimics human behavior. Instead of me going in and manually putting a list together, the machine goes out and groups people together based on rules that I've given it. Hugely valuable, but it just automates things that I was doing before.
Right.
Artificial intelligence does something much, much more significant than that. It allows me to actually learn without knowing in advance all the rules that I need to give the system.
Mhm. So there was a good example you and I were discussing before this interview, Samantha, of the Google Assistant that really touched on this idea of the lines really blurring, where there's a big difference between this AI and what machines have been helping us do for already a decade or more. Tell us a little bit about this example.
Yeah, this is a really interesting one. If you haven't had a chance to listen to it, I encourage people to go out and look in the ether or send me a note after and I'll send you a link to it. And what it is it's a recording of Google Assistant making an appointment with a hairdresser for a haircut. And that sounds so straightforward. But what's really interesting about it is if you listen to the call, it is very hard to distinguish between the person who is the machine and the person who is the human. And you don't know at first who that is. And the reason it's so difficult to tell is that the machine has done this really incredible thing of mimicking human speech patterns. So it's saying things like and ah and and giving pauses at moments that machines might not otherwise do. As it turns out in this example, it's not actually the salon that's using an assistant to schedule appointments. It was the person calling to make an appointment to have their hair done. And what's fascinating to me about that example is not only how difficult it was to tell which was a machine and which was a human, but the recognition that it's not just we as brands who are going to be using machines to communicate with our customers, but our customers are going to use machines to talk to us. And that is a really interesting opportunity and also a very big challenge for us.
Mhm. So, Samantha, I know one of the things you wanted to touch on here, and maybe it's alluded to a little bit with this example of not being able to tell the difference. And I think where some of the trepidation comes in for folks is can we trust machines? We've heard of examples of failure of machines or of AI. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts on this concept as far as the trust factor goes.
I'm really glad that you brought that up. And it's a really important issue because at the end of the day, trust is paramount to relationship with our customers. And it's never been more broken than it is today. If you look at any of the research that's done out there, the Edelman Trust Barometer is a great example of that. It shows a rapid decline in trust between consumers and brands and a lot of other things besides just brands. But what's really interesting about that is the role of machines can feed into that. So we're afraid, right? We have these visions of like Terminator movies, the machines are going to take over. And we think about things that have happened very publicly where years ago, Microsoft had a chatbot, Tay, and it's all of a sudden started rambling racist things. Or we had a Android-like machine at a conference say that it wanted to destroy humanity. Or we have, an airline whose plane crashed and people were calling in to get information. And the automatic calling system was giving them information as if the flight was on time. So we have all these examples of where machines let us down. But if you uncover and go deeper than that, the truth is the machines didn't let us down. It was the humans the machines were interacting with that they were learning from. And so to the extent that we use machines and artificial intelligence to simply mimic human behavior today, to simply do whatever it is that humans are doing, we will always have trust issues because humans inherently can't be fully trusted. What we have the opportunity to do, though, is I think to elevate the relationship and to actually bring out the best of humanity. And that means putting intelligent guardrails about when do I direct a call to a real person? How do I know this is a real person versus a machine? Where am I being transparent with our customers? Where do we need our customers to be transparent with us? And that is a heavy burden, but it is one that I think has incredible potential if we rethink where the trust issue lies and we stop worrying solely about things like getting the code right and making sure it's hack proof and training it on the right data, but we also consider how it's going to be used with the humans that are going to interact with it.
Right. Because the point of using machines and using AI isn't just to fool you that it's really a human, just to do this impersonation effect, right? That might be what comes to mind for us, but there are a lot of other applications other than just making a bot sound like a human by putting in some typing sounds when you're on hold with your, wireless provider, right? Tell us about some of the other applications where you think, we can elevate human behavior instead of just trying to emulate human behavior with machines.
Completely true. And, I'm one of those people who says thank you to my Amazon Echo when I ask it for something and it gives me an answer, right? It's okay to have sort of human like behavior in the things we interact with, but the real power and the real potential is doing things like there's this wonderful call center application, and it is humans on the phone. And what this artificial intelligence technology does is it can listen for cues in human commands and human conversation that the average human who's not super emotionally aware might not pick up on. And it listens for word choice, pausing, tone of voice. And what it does is it can tell when the other person on the line is getting confused, frustrated, angry, and it prompts the call center person to adjust how they're speaking. And it gives them these cues. So it's still a human to human interaction, but artificial intelligence is making that a much better and more satisfying interaction for both people on the phone.
Yeah, I love that. Like you alluded to earlier, Samantha, taking time away from mundane, tedious tasks, that elevates us to spend more time on more thoughtful, more creative endeavors. In this example, you're talking about, a person-to-person interaction where artificial intelligence can actually improve that. I love your example of saying thank you to Alexa. I've had kind of that same sort of feeling. We have a Google Home Mini in my house, and when my kids say, "Okay, Google," I'm like, well, you're not talking this idea that they're communicating, kind of bossing it around, and kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Like, but wait, they're not talking to a human. Do they need to be polite? Yeah, I want them to be polite anyway. So I'm glad
that's a really great example. And, I look at this, and I have 4 children myself. So I completely understand this challenge. And it's one of those things where, like, my kids play video games and my kids are now older. But when they were younger, we really struggled with what was the line for the type of video game that was okay to play and where were we crossing it. And I had to learn the hard over many rolled eyes and talking to many parents and making lots of observations with my very annoyed children that, in fact, they are more capable of making distinctions than we give them credit for. And that my kids were as polite and as functioning human beings outside this video game world as they were. And I think these things like talking to Google and talking to Siri and things similarly can allow us to, people are more capable of making distinctions that we give them. And I wish I could tell you who said this, because I was sitting at a conference and it was somebody sitting on stage. I think it might've been Dharmesh, but don't hold me to it, who said, don't overestimate the value of talking to a human, right? Sometimes what we really want is an answer to a question that's sitting in a database somewhere, and we don't actually need a human, right? I just want my account number. I just want to know what your hours are. I just want, things. And those are, when I talk about sort of the tedious rote things that we can free up, those are the kind of things that take a lot of time, but machines are very, very good at doing. They're totally accurate. And now with artificial intelligence, they're actually becoming very good at interpreting what question we meant to ask, even if we asked something different.
Right. Absolutely.
All right. Today's growth story is about search engine marketing. Clear Company is an HR tech company that was doing a lot of things right. Their messaging was clear. Their product produced incredible results. But they were struggling to drive qualified traffic to their website. Then they found Directive Consulting, a B2B search marketing agency. Within the first 12 months of working with Directive, Clear Company was able to increase their qualified lead volume by 157%. I have a hunch that Directive can get these kind of results for you too. So head over to directiveconsulting.com and request a totally free custom proposal. That's directiveconsulting.com. All right, let's get back to this interview.
So my question to kind of go from here, Samantha, is, all of us who aren't engineers, and especially those of us in the marketing space and especially B2B, where do we go from here? What are the things on the horizons, or the things that we can take from some of these common AI applications and do this week, next month, this next quarter, that we can be thinking about in how AI can play a positive role, maybe help us advance what we're trying to do in our jobs, or elevate what we're doing with our clients?
I'm really glad that you asked that. The first thing that we have to do is to recognize that everybody is calling itself AI, and it's not. Most of what's out there today is actually not artificial intelligence. It's still rule-based automation. And so we just have to be very conscious and aware of doing our due diligence when we're talking to companies who are providing us technology solutions, to really understand what their capabilities are and what they're not yet. And that's okay. But understanding is really key. The second thing we need to do is we need to find out and think about and brainstorm areas of our business, questions that we have difficulty answering, tasks that are difficult for us to do today, and really give ourselves permission to think broadly and boldly about where we might apply artificial intelligence and start planning for that. Because one of the things that is shocking to me, but it comes up out, sitting in a room of engineers. Now, I'm not an engineer, and thank goodness for that. You wouldn't want me writing a line of code. It would be a horrible experience for everyone involved. But I get this opportunity studying artificial intelligence to be in a room with a lot of engineers and data scientists and people who have these brilliant minds. And what shocks me is how little we're able to apply what is this amazing capability to an actual business problem and challenge. And those people tell me over and over again that my team doesn't know what to ask for. I sit down to try and map out a business problem, and they just don't know. And so we, as marketers and as leaders in the company, have an obligation and opportunity to think about where we might apply this technology. So that's sort of number two. Number three is really critical that we act on immediately. And that is, artificial intelligence requires data to learn from. It can only be as good as the inputs we put into the system. And so we have to start thinking about what data we collect and make available about all of our business, all the different pieces and parts, so that as we're ready to roll out different kinds of learning applications, the system has a basis upon which to start that learning. And that includes data we might have ourselves, as well as data and sources we might have from third parties. I could keep going. There's probably another 10 things that we should all start thinking about. But if you just do those three things, you're off to a very, very good start.
Yeah. So it's thinking about where we could apply this technology, getting granular into business processes where there could be solid application, and then knowing that in order to really leverage AI, you're going to need to feed it data in order to be set up for success. I think those are three key takeaways for anyone today, Samantha, listening to this and thinking about, what is my interaction with AI going to be like, other than maybe a new Netflix series or the next movie that comes out next summer that AI plays a role in? But as far as our day-to-day, I think those are some great things for folks to be thinking about. If, Samantha, people would like to reach out, ask you any follow-up questions, or just stay connected with you, I follow your stuff on LinkedIn. That's how you and I initially connected. So I know that you're active there and sharing great content related to all things marketing. But if anybody would like to connect with you for the first time, what would be the best way for them to go about doing that?
LinkedIn is certainly a great way to do that. I welcome it. People are also welcome to just reach out to me directly. You can email me at samantha.stone@marketingadvisorynetwork.com. I know that's a mouthful. But that is also a great way to find me, and of course on Twitter at Samantha Stone.
Love it. Samantha, thank you so much for being a guest on B2B Growth. Yet again, really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you so much for having me. I think if there's one thing that's going to change how marketing is done more than anything else in the next 5 years, we're going to be both awed and challenged by what artificial intelligence is going to allow us to do. So I really believe that every marketer, no matter how big your brand is, no matter how you think you're using it today, we really need to start understanding how to apply this amazing opportunity, because if you don't, your competitors are going to.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that parting thought. This is definitely a hot topic for a reason, because it's going to affect our lives, both personally and professionally, for the years to come. So thank you so much for sharing your insights on it, Samantha.
My pleasure.
Digital marketing agencies have a tough job.
You have to stay on top of the latest marketing strategies for your clients and your agency. What if there was a way you could address both at the same time? Imagine your agency putting out content with greater quality and quantity. Envision bringing your clients a turnkey solution for one of B2B marketing's fastest growing media strategies, podcasting. You know all those clients asking for your help with their account-based marketing efforts? Picture being the first to bring them the idea of content-based networking, showing them the proven strategy for breaking into their most coveted accounts. Here's the concept. Sweetfish Media is looking to work with a limited number of innovative agencies interested in a new partnership model. We produce a podcast for your agency. You introduce the power of podcasting and Sweetfish services to your clients. Everybody wins. Learn more at sweetfishpartners.com.